Hi, this is Tom Dean.
Hey, this is Freya Anderson.
Hi, this is Dylan Carter.
Hi, this is Sydney Pickram.
Hi, I'm Duncan Scott, and you're listening to the London Roar podcast.
It went almost to the wire, but the Roar held off the fast-finishing Cali Condors to notch their first win of the 2021 ISL playoffs and take a big step towards the grand final. This is Steve from Pullbuoy welcoming you to the London Roar podcast, where we'll catch our breath and look back at a pulsating match in the company of Freya Anderson and Tom Dean. Katie is back on board this week, so let's head to Eindhoven and get into it. Joining us from Eindhoven, Freya Anderson and Tom Dean. Welcome both of you to the London Roar podcast. Great to have you back with us. Freya, coming to you first. Great match just gone. Congratulations on the win. The team looked really up for it this week. Was there a big shift in mindset from last week that you wanted to get this one?
I'm not sure there was such a big shift. I think we were just very annoyed last week, just getting pipped. But, we just had to keep a level head. Just went into this match, no pressure, but I think we all wanted to win it, definitely.
And Tom, how has it been coming into the team and straight into an intense competition like this after your post-Olympic break?
Yeah, it's been quite difficult. I had a very long break after the Olympics. I didn't do Naples, ISL, because I was still on my break at that point. So coming into, back-to-back racing with not much work behind me is always going to be tough. I always knew it was going to be tough. I was hoping to kind of rest up throughout the competition, and that's my, still my plan. But it's always hard going back-to-back, 400 frees, 400 IMs off the back of no work, and a very, very long summer break. So I knew it was going to be tough, but, I just knew what I was getting myself in for.
And we know that you had a disruptive preparation last year. It might be that you haven't been back long enough to kind of know this yet, but how are you finding it this time around? Sort of getting back into training and racing and hopefully staying healthier than you were able to, for the first part of last year?
Yeah, so last year, obviously, I had a 4 or 5 week build before I got my first bout of COVID, and then obviously I had to isolate. So I had a bit of work behind me coming into the competition, even though I had the 10 days off. 10 days, 2 weeks off leading into Budapest. I still had a block of work behind me. And this time it's very much the case of I'm not coming in right off the back of a break. I've had a few weeks of gentle kind of build back in, but the 10 weeks I had off post-Olympics was always going to take its toll. It requires a long kind of gradual build up to get back to race fitness levels. And that's what I found at this ISL compared to last year.
Okay, well, it's great to see you back competing for the Roar. Let's bring it back to the match, Freya. It was really exciting for everybody watching. Obviously, it swung to and fro. You had a big lead after day one, and then Cali were coming back. Were you ever worried in the team that they would sneak past you, or was there a confidence in the box watching?
I think there was a slight confidence. I mean, with the ISL, especially towards the end of the last session, a lot can change because you have, a big relay and the 400 IMs and then skins. So it can always completely flip the match. But pretty much we just wanted to get ourselves ahead of LA. So Cali, obviously they are the ones to beat. We would have liked to have won the match, which we did, but we didn't. I don't know. It was kind of a surprise, but I think it was we were all quietly confident, I think.
And it's always seemed to us watching from outside that day two has been, the weaker of the 2 days for the team. Is that something that you talk about in advance or you're conscious of?
Yeah, kind of. Steve is just telling us just take one day at a time and just treat the second day, as if it was the first day of competition. So yeah, you just have to sort of forget about what's happened on the first day, whether it was good or bad, and just go again on day two.
Tom, you mentioned the 400 IMs, jumping back into those. That's right at the end. How aware are you of the match situation? Going into that race. I mean, do you know how tight it is? I know there's TVs in the call room and stuff, but how much do you pay attention to that? Before your race.
I wouldn't say I pay much attention to the club standings. Going into my actual race, they do show them after every swim, where everyone's sitting. But regardless of whether we're in first place or fourth, I'm still wanting to go in and do the best job I can and execute the race I want to execute. Like you said, Thornheim is at the back end of that day. So I'm able to finish that, get out and just kind of get in the box in time to watch the skins, which is always exciting. Like Freya said, the back end of the competition, the points can swing so much because of how heavily weighted the skins are. So it's always exciting being able to get in the box and watch that. But I mean, you look at the 400s and they're starting to become even more tactical with the new rules that are being brought in, and there are more points that can be scored there. So I'm not, the club standings don't dictate how I execute my race. I want to go in and kind of do the best job I can, but it's always in the back of my mind.
And Freya, a PB for you in the 400 free. You must be really pleased with the way you've been swimming in Eindhoven so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the first match when I went at 401, which was just on my PB, like I just didn't know where that came from. Like I was sort of coming into this, the playoffs, like thinking that my sprints were going to be really good because I was training really well sprints in training and stuff, and like my speed was there. But it's been the other way around. I don't know why that is, but it was definitely a nice surprise to get a PB as well, especially in the last match.
And Tom was just talking about the checkpoints and how many points there are up for grabs in those 400s now. Did you have specific tactics around the checkpoint?
Not really. I remember the first 400, me and Katie did it together and we were like, we don't know how to race this. I don't know how I'm going to race it. And we both sort of just decided, let's just try and have a pop at the checkpoint points and just try and hang on. So that's what was going through my head, really. Just get to that 100 and then try and just keep the rhythm for the rest of the race. And yeah, it's quite a nice tactic, I think. Just go out and hurt yourself and just see if you can hang on.
But you mentioned there you thought you were going to be more of a sprinter, but you've come up in the longer races. That maybe has meant you've done fewer relays. Is that something you're missing?
Yeah, I guess I am missing them a bit. My relays last year in Budapest were really good, and obviously it is really fun being part of the team. But with my 400 being all right, it's so close to the women's medley relay. So, they'd rather rest Emma for that. So she's fresh. I think I did one time in Naples where I did a 400 and then I did the medley relay like 5 minutes later and it was horrific. So, yeah, but I am missing the relays.
Well, perhaps as tactics evolve, maybe we'll see you do a couple more of those. Tom, talking of PBs, we saw you in a couple of events that you've not swum for a little while, 200 breaststroke and 50 fly. By my reckoning, a couple of second PBs in both of those.
Yeah, I was over the moon to knock a few seconds off my times when I was 15 years old. No, it was like good. You mean it. It was good fun. It was good fun swimming some other events. I think because of where I am in terms of my fitness levels and the times I'm going on my main events at the moment, my job's very much, swim certain events to rest other people. So they're able to kind of hit some quick times and get some big points, which is just another job that I've got to do on the team. Obviously I'd like to be swimming close to my best times on my main events, but, I never expected anything else when I was coming in off the back of 2-3 weeks worked and a big break. But yeah, so my job for the last match was very much placeholder on events that we maybe weren't as strong on, resting certain people, and it was very much a tactical decision. But yeah, it's always good fun getting chucked in something a bit different. I had to remind myself on that 2 breast when I hit the water to do a breaststroke pull out because I haven't hit the water and done a breaststroke pull out for years. So I was a bit nervous. I might just hit and go 200 free pace or something. So I had to remind myself of that.
Well, you managed that well. So congratulations on those personal bests. Freya, you talked about being quietly confident that you'd get the result earlier. So what was the mood like afterwards? I mean, the team looked pleased in the box when the last skins went through and the result was confirmed. But I kind of got the impression it was more, a sense of satisfaction at a job well done than a, massive excitement. I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we are only in the playoffs. You can't get too excited about a win. especially when we only have another 3 days until our next match. So you just sort of have to, like, yeah, accept the result. You know, you can be happy, but always go back and look at what you can work on and just try and look forward instead of, you know, reflecting too much on the weekend, especially with the tight turnaround and the fact that we'll be meeting Cali again in the final. So just got to remain level-headed.
And great for Duncan to finally get an MVP award too, which I think is London's first one. The rest of the team looks so pleased for him. Tom, do you think that's something that meant a lot to him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, getting the MVP as someone who's not done the skins is an achievement in itself, I think, because of how, like I said, how heavily weighted the skins are in terms of points. Being able to achieve that and not being a skin swimmer is really, really impressive. I mean, you know, he's not someone who's doing 50 free, 50 fly, you know, 100 free, something like that. He's doing, you know, he's doing 400 frees, 400 IMs, 200 IMs. He's doing big events and still being able to walk away with MVP from that match is really impressive. And it shows, you know, obviously he's got that degree of versatility, which is really important in a competition like ISL, and it's very valued within the London team. And I think that was a very well-deserved MVP. And yeah, you can see how much it meant to him and the whole team.
Yeah, terrific for Duncan to get that spot. So well deserved, as you say. Let's switch around and look forward to your next match, which comes up quickly. You've got LA Current again, obviously as your pairing, but you match up against Energy Standard and DC Trident as well. Freya, you've never beaten Energy, but you obviously came very close in the prelims in Naples. You looking forward to the challenge of having another go at them this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Energy as well, they've got insane freestyle women. So I hope I can hold my own against them all. But I don't know, just coming together as a team, I think is just going to be the most important. And yeah, just not to get too carried away with trying to beat them. I think just try and do as best as we can, get through, and then, you know, you can focus on trying to beat them again in the final.
And you'll get to test yourself against probably the best female freestyler in the league at the moment in Siobhan Hawley. How do you feel about that?
I guess it's quite nerve-wracking. I mean, she's obviously an amazing athlete. She's been throwing down some pretty fast times, especially her 200 in the last match. You know, it was so close to the world record. But yeah, I think I'm a bit nervous, but hopefully I can manage to hold my own and hopefully get a few points in for the team. Yeah, just try and stay calm.
I think we talked to you last year on this podcast about how much you were back ending your races, and it looks, I don't know if it's an impact of the sort of what's it called, the checkpoint points, or are you consciously racing a little bit more differently because you've sort of been leading from the front a lot of the times in the 200 and 400 that we've seen you do so far?
Yeah, I don't actually even know where that's come from. I think part of it is like going back to the Olympics and my 200 free in the semis, like I completely messed up my race and I didn't go out fast enough. So it just didn't stand a chance in that field. I think it sort of stemmed from that a bit, like just trying to have no regrets, no holding back, and just try and get out and just try and hold on, really, instead of trying to come through and like fight to the end. I think just try and get out and dominate, especially in the 400 where you've got the checkpoint points. I think that makes a bit of a difference. But yeah, I don't know where that's come from.
It definitely seems to be working so far.
Thank you.
Thinking about Energy again, Tom, we gather from Steve Tigg that James Gibson gives Rob Woodhouse a bit of stick about the fact that London haven't beaten him. Is that something that gives you extra motivation?
Yeah, I think, like you said, if the fact that we've not beaten them, obviously it's something we're really driven to do. But I think it'll just take, you know, another excellent team performance like the one we kind of executed on the weekend. Tactics obviously play a big role in it, and I'm sure, you know, Tiggy will be analysing the team and the roster and kind of choosing the strategy that will kind of work best against Energy. But like Freya said, it's all about the final next week. That's what it's all building towards. So, you know, if we don't get them in a few days' time, I'm sure we will next weekend.
And, you know, you've obviously, you know, you have said you want to swim better yourself. I mean, and Steve will look at the tactics. Do you think there are areas as a team that you can still improve on from the last match?
I think as we get closer to the final, he'll prioritise certain swimmers in certain events to rest them and make sure it's, tactically we're getting the most points from those events that are slightly more weighted in terms of the number of points we can get from the team. There's so many factors that play a role in it. You've got your own team and how everyone's swimming within the team. You've got the other members of the other teams and kind of how people match up London compared to them. And then you've also got which events are more heavily weighted in terms of the points. There's a lot of factors that kind of affect our roster and the strategy that we're going to take. I think as a swimmer, it's very much a case of leave that to the coaches. I'm of the mindset that I'll do what I'm told to do, and I know that they've got the best interests of the team at heart, and that's kind of the approach I take. But yeah, it's definitely a very tactical decision choosing who's going to swim what event.
Well, we have fun poring over the start list to see what's going on. So we'll look forward to doing that again this week. Freya, you mentioned the really short turnaround between matches. How's that affected what you're doing in training this week?
Well, our training anyway is sort of just holding ourselves up, really, like a bit of an aerobic base, and then using the racing as a sort of our anaerobic work. So sort of on Sunday to Monday, just wind down. I took the day off. And then today, 2 sessions, and tomorrow just 1 session. So yeah, it does come round very quickly. But I think it's just all about getting that rest in, I think, personally for me, definitely. Just getting a bit of rest and trying to freshen up for the next match.
Tom, do you think we'll see you do any more unexpected events this week?
For all I know, I'll be putting the long jump next week or something. It's going to be a bit crazy. I'll do anything that's thrown at me, really. But yeah, it depends. Like I said, if I was fresh and rested and I had a block of training behind me and I was on my best times, then I'm sure I'd be one of the swimmers who's focusing on doing their main events. But if it's required of me to swim certain events to rest people, then that's what I've got to do for the team. So we'll just have to wait and see.
It's a team game, so absolutely exactly. needed. So we'll look forward to seeing that, as I said. Let's move on briefly. We like to have a bit of fun on this podcast where we can. So we've got some quick fire questions for you, just to find out a bit about you and your teammates, and how your relationship with those is building. It's a feature we call raw material, because this is your number one podcast for line-based puns. You know where to get them. Katie has got, I think 3. Is it 3?
3 and then a bonus question for Tom.
All right, excellent. 3 questions for you. Just a bit of fun. Let's go with question number 1, Katie.
Okay, so question number 1, I think it's going to be quite difficult for you both to answer because you annoyingly seem to be good at almost all events as far as I can see. But what would your nightmare event selection for an ISL matchup be? Coming to Freya first.
Mine would definitely be some kind of backstroke events, probably 200 back, obviously 200 fly. That would not be a pretty sight.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, actually my answer is literally almost identical to Freya's. Anything involving backstroke, and then getting rinsed in a 200 fly wouldn't be too much fun either. So they're probably along the same lines, to be fair.
Right, we'll look forward to seeing you in one of those events this Saturday, so this Thursday and Friday.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Katie,
okay,
next
so question number 2, we'll come to Tom first on this. Which a team member on the London Royal roster would you choose as an ally in a zombie apocalypse?
A zombie apocalypse. Probably Dylan. Size of him, he'd definitely be scrapping those zombies. So yeah, I'd definitely pick Dylan if I had to go for one guy on the team.
Good choice.
So if Dylan's taken, Freya, who's your pick?
Oh gosh.
Ed the Shred.
Shredwood. I'd probably pick Guido.
Oh,
He'd definitely be good at that. Guido.
He's wise as well.
yeah, very wise, very strong. There we go.
He's a big man, certainly. Yeah. Excellent.
Okay,
Katie?
question number 3. We've seen on the London Raw Instagram last week that Katie Shanahan was crowned the London Raw Dive and Glide Champion 2021. I think I've got that right. It looked like she won at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So off the back of this, we wondered if you could steal one skill from one of your London Raw teammates, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be in the pool. So if like Kyle is amazing at making a souffle, or Annie Laser can like talk to dolphins or something, you can steal any of those skills. Is there anything you've seen that you would want to steal? Coming to you first, Freya.
Oh gosh, I feel like this is hard. I need a lot of time to think about this.
We can go to Tom if he's got something ready.
You got anything ready, Dino?
I've got an idea. Yeah, I've got an idea.
Go on then.
You might have to come back to me.
Okay, we'll go to Tom first.
I'm going to go back to King Guido again, but I found out the other day that you can actually speak 5 languages, which is a feat in itself. So I always feel a bit like, a bit of a mug that I can only just speak English and everyone just has to speak English around me. We've got so many people, who can speak so many different languages on the team. So I'd definitely take that skill from him if I could.
Do you know which 5?
You can speak Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, and Italian.
Wow.
Well, very impressive. Very impressive.
Any ideas, Freya?
I'm not too sure, I might have to be boring and just be like, I would take something to do with like swimming, someone who has good speed and turns. Probably Emma. I'd take her speed.
Well, I think there are lots of people who would steal that given half a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, very good.
One bonus question for Tom. So as Olympic champion Tom Dean, the question which I think everyone in the world wants to know is, were you asked to switch on the Maidenhead Christmas lights this year?
I was, I was asked to switch on the Christmas lights, but unfortunately I am out here in hotel in Eindhoven, so I had to turn down the greatest opportunity of my life, unfortunately.
Maybe. Well, there's plenty more in your career, so I'm sure you'll be asked again.
True. Hopefully so. That would be an honour.
Never let it be said that we don't ask the important questions on this podcast. There we are. Good. Right. Well, we will let you go very shortly. I just wanted to ask quickly about World Short Course. You're both headed off there after the ISL finishes. I'm thinking, Freya, this ISL sort of playoffs is actually quite a good preparation for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good opportunity to like refine your race skills. We're sort of resting down for the final, so then hopefully we can bounce on to the World Short Course. And originally I was actually only meant to be doing 100 and 200 out there, but I think the other day I texted Dave my coach, can you get me in for the 400? So it'd be another opportunity to sort of get that time down.
Fantastic. And Tom, you said you're really only getting back into things now. What are you hoping to get out of the World Short Course?
Yeah, similar to Freya, I'm hoping I can use this block of racing in Eindhoven almost like a training block, an anaerobic block almost, if you will. And hopefully that'll be enough behind me to rest down and race well in Abu Dhabi. You can kind of get away with it short course. There's no hiding long course. You couldn't go into a proper world's long course without having a block of work behind me, but you can kind of get away with it a little bit more short course. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking. And targeting hopefully some quick swims out in the Middle East.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing what you can do there. But before that, we'll wish you every luck for your matchup against Energy this week. So good luck for that, and hopefully we'll see another Raw victory.
Thank you very much. Hope so.
I am Kira Toussaint, and this is the London Roar podcast.
Well, it was a terrifically exciting match to watch, Katie. London surging into a big lead and then being pegged back progressively through the second day before sealing it at the end. Some things to pick out. Duncan Scott, who was MVP, the guys are really pleased for him. Obviously, he set a British record in the 100 IM on that way, but he's just so amazingly consistent, isn't he?
Yeah, I think we're incredibly lucky to have him. I mean, the whole experience really is making me realise how many incredibly versatile swimmers there are, both sort of worldwide and on the London Raw roster. But I think Duncan really stands out as one of those who can not only do a lot of swims, but he can do a lot of big, as in sort of, he's not just doing a load of 50s, he's doing 400s, he's doing 200s, and he's doing them back to back, and they're all incredibly fast. So I think he's a we're really lucky to have him on the roster.
We're fully paid up members of the Duncan Scott fan club, so we look forward to seeing him again this week. Shout out to Christian Diener, who also set 2 German records in the match just gone. And I think symptomatic of everyone kind of raising their level of performance after that first match, Katie. I mean, Sydney and Kira told us last week everyone was a bit angry. Freya said it there. They just wanted to be better, and everyone came up this week.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there has been I think coming off the end of the prelims round, when everyone had sort of settled in, the first match was probably always bound to be a bit of a difficult one. Everyone's at slightly different places again. They've sort of been out of the team environment, and they've all just got to jump back in and race in the format, which is still quite new to everyone. So it's not surprising to see them move it on this week. But I think, the extent to which they did that just showed, I think, the frustration of last week's result.
And Tom talked about tactics. We know from speaking to Steve Tig a couple of times this series already that he likes to think about it deeply, run simulations and all those kind of things. But it feels like the tactics are kind of bedding in a little bit. There was some different approaches to the relays, really going for the win and the big jackpots in some of them, but then in the ones where they didn't think they could win, 2 more balanced teams to try and keep them both in the middle of the pack and avoid getting jackpotted. So there's some interesting things coming out as the season develops. And I know you've seen a number of races where somebody's going for the win, and maybe the second person is a filler, a bit like Tom in those events, just swimming to try and avoid the cutoff and filling that lane. But maybe that's not the best way. I mean, far be it from us to tell Steve Tig how to pick the team, but
yeah,
an interesting tactic.
It must be. I just can't even imagine how much work must go into devising the team every week, especially now we've got things like jackpots in there. Now we've got checkpoints, all of those, and it's going to be so different against every team. And I think the first round match, it looked like we were just trying to win all the relays. This match felt a little bit different, and to be fair, on day one I was watching it thinking, I don't think we're doing very well here, and you had to tell me that we were winning. So it is so tactical. I felt particularly on day 2 that our tactics seemed to be, well, let's just win and sort of let the second person take care of themselves, which I think can work sometimes. But if you're just getting 9 points for the win, and then you're jackpotting your second person, or they're getting 1 point, is that as good as getting maybe like second and third? But I mean, yeah, it blows my mind trying to put myself in Steve Tig's shoes and think about how on earth he picks that team every week.
And when we saw really for the first 2 matches how the impacts of the other teams plays out, because Toronto stole loads of points from London because they're very strong in events that London's strong at, where the other teams this week were not. So it will be different again coming into this next match with Energy, who will probably have a load of jackpots. Shimanovic will jackpot everyone within sight in all the breaststroke events. And so the balance will be different again. It's a big challenge for them this weekend. They're really going to have to up again their level of performance, I would think. But surely, they're almost certain of making the final, and presumably we would like to think they want to make a statement this weekend against Energy.
I think it would be really great for them to go into the final with something very close with Energy, or maybe even a win over Energy under their belt. And because I think it feels like people are talking about Cali and about Energy in terms of the top 2 spots, and I don't think that's set in stone. I mean, we showed this week we've beaten Cali, so I think Raw is definitely in there as a contender, and I think maybe they'd like that to be a bit clearer in everyone's mind before they go into the final. We hope. I would be quite up for kidnapping our 2 absent male breaststrokers and getting them forcibly to Eindhoven. So, if anybody's up for helping me with that, obviously we won't do that. But that would be great if we could maybe get one of them over. But I don't think we've got any news on that yet.
No, I think it's increasingly unlikely, I think is what we'll put that likelihood in. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how that match pans out. I think it'll be another exciting one. So that's coming up Thursday, Friday this week. But I think we will draw this podcast to a close at that point. And we'll be back next week to see what happens and talk through what happens in that match. In the meantime, You can find me on Twitter at Pullbuoy or on Instagram at Pullbuoy UK if you want to send a question or a comment. And I've seen a few come in while we've been recording this podcast, in fact. So I should be on replying to those shortly. But send me an email at pullbuoy.co.uk/contact if you prefer. But until next week, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the London Raw podcast by Pullbuoy. For more episodes, visit www.pullbuoy.co.uk/raw.